This is Dr. Vince Belanzi. I want to talk a little bit more about depression. We've had a couple segments on that, and I just wanted to maybe get a little more detail going. First of all, it's coming out more and more that the antidepressants are probably not the best way to go. And some of you may be very dependent on those antidepressants. First of all, I don't want you to get dependent on them and have to use them for a long time. For a short time, sometimes it's a tool to use. But there's so many other alternatives. First of all, if you take care of yourself, you're going to be much less prone to depression. Are you getting enough sleep? If you don't get enough sleep, your body just can't get things done. It's just like we've talked about exercise. There are substances that won't even be produced. There is repair and metabolism that won't even occur if you don't sleep. So if you don't spend enough time, and we now know that most Americans don't get near enough sleep, around 7.5 is kind of the golden number. 8's good. You don't want to go too long, but you need enough sleep to go through all 4 stages. You need to get down into that deep sleep where you're going to make growth hormone and other things that your body is going to need. You need to get down in that deep sleep so your body can stop and do the repair that it needs to do. Your body's very active at night. So if you're only getting to lay down for an hour, couple hours, 3 or 4 hours, and there are people that do that, then you're never getting down into that 4th stage of sleep. You're never really allowing your body to get ready for the next day. You're just moving on. And you might be able to do that for a little bit and get away with it. Honestly, you probably aren't getting away with it, but you think you are. Sleep is so very important because it's the time when your body can stop and regroup. It's going to make things for the next day. If you don't sleep, you're going to have a much bigger problem with weight. Even if you exercise and do everything else right, if you're not sleeping, you likely will have a weight problem. It's more stress on the body. You're going to have more and more cortisol being produced. There are so many problems that are going to occur if you don't sleep. Growth hormone, extremely important hormone. You can boost the levels of that hormone if you'll just sleep. We have people spending thousands of dollars going to anti-aging clinics like ours and spending money on injectable HGH. Now, sometimes it's quite helpful, and there are people that are deficient even if they do the right thing. But for the majority of people, if they just get more sleep, they'd make their own growth hormone. Maybe even enough to get away without needing to do something from outside. So sleep's extremely important. You want to help your depression? Get enough sleep. Now, I'm not talking about laying in bed for 24 hours because you're depressed. I'm talking about getting enough quality sleep so you have better control over your emotions. Another thing you have to do is look at your nutrition. There's a much better solution with depression if we simply get enough nutrition, especially the amino acids. If you're not eating good proteins and you're not getting sufficient of certain amino acids, your body is out of control. A lot of times in the office, we'll test amino acid levels. We can do that pretty easily in the blood. You can do it in urine. But if we know what the levels are of the amino acids, those are the precursors to make the neurotransmitters. We can do a lot to balance the neurotransmitters that are going to create the emotions, things like serotonin, which is a key in depression, without needing to go to a drug to force something to happen, like not uptake the serotonin that's there so it can be built up. Because your hormone is supposed to be formed, do its job, broken down and disposed of. If you're going to interrupt that, you basically have old used serotonin. It doesn't work quite as well, even though it does have an effect. I'd much rather we determine how to replete certain amino acids, get you eating better, pretty much find a way to do it naturally. You can also test the levels of the neurotransmitters. That is helpful as well. So there's a better approach than simply getting on a drug. You may think it's helping, but now you're dependent. And that's the big thing that I don't want to happen to you. So get enough sleep so that your body can repair itself, so you can be ready for the next day, the next week, the next month. Get enough sleep so you don't have a weight problem. Get enough sleep to help your depression. Get enough sleep to help other physical and mental problems. Sleep is something that you need. You can't get away with less. Make sure you're getting the nutrients you need. That's going to be huge in helping depression. And as we've talked about before, physical activity is also quite helpful. Now, if you're doing all those things right, or you think you are, you might check it out. You might have an unbiased observer. Maybe it's going to be some clinician, a clinical nutritionist, somebody like that, maybe just a good friend. But have somebody from the outside take a look at your lifestyle and see if you're really doing all the stuff you're supposed to. If you're not, I want you to do it. But if you are, there could be some other problems. Many times with something like depression or physical disorders, whether it's autoimmune disease or other mental disorders, we find that there are interfering factors. That's when we look at things like chemicals that may have gotten into the body. Especially if you're sensitive to things. You find that you're more and more sensitive, even on an allergy basis. Then there's probably something in your body already that's keeping you at a higher sensitivity. It could be certain chemicals you've been exposed to. It could be metals. It could even be viruses or bacteria. It could be parasites. But something has you working at a higher rate. Usually your immune system is involved here. So there are answers beyond doing the right thing. But I think the majority of people just aren't doing the right thing. In fact, you probably know what you're supposed to do. I just want you to do it. It's worth the effort. Stop putting it off. If you're not eating well, then just start making better choices. Remember, I told you 7 to 9 servings of vegetables are currently recommended by nutritionists. Only 2 to 4 are fruit, only 1 a whole grain. You got to eat a lot of vegetables. So if you're at 0, go to 1. All right? And if you're not exercising, then start putting it into your schedule. Somewhere, somehow in your day, there's got to be a few minutes. Now, eventually I want you to build that up. But if you're not exercising at all, start. It can be 5 or 10 minutes. But I want it consistent. If you're not exercising, you have to exercise every day. Let's just make it a rule. And I want it to be more than just, well, I'm busy at work. You may have a very physical job. Most of us don't. Even if you do have a physical job, I still want you to have some kind of a designed activity. Something in your schedule that is for you. It's physical activity. It's going to be beneficial. If you're doing nothing, then start. A few minutes. If you're already exercising fairly consistently, then look at modifying it. You never want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. You want to be able to do cross-training. You just want to do different things. You'll benefit differently from the different activities. Even throughout the week, try different things. Because you want the benefits of endurance, you want the benefits of strength and power, and you want some cardiovascular conditioning. So, get all the benefits. You can't do it all in one day. Better to break it up throughout the week. But wherever you are, make some improvements. Get better sleep. Look at your sleep hygiene. Sometimes it's as simple as just cleaning out your room. I don't know where it is that you sleep. I'm not going to come check it out. But make an assessment. Are there many electronics in there? I mean, some people have a computer and 2 TVs and clocks and all this stuff, and it's making noise and it's radiating. Get it out of there. Even if you turn the TV off, even if everything's turned off, it still can radiate, make noise, have light. It's going to interrupt sleep. It may be putting out vapors. Believe it or not, you leave things on and you're still going to get an effect. So just take it out of the room. Have a room where you sleep. You can have your clothes in there too. But just make it a place where you can darken, where it can be quiet, and where there are no distractions. And electronics are a big distraction. If you have a pet, you can love your pet, but if the pet is not able to just go to sleep and stay asleep, if the pet's moving around, then you're going to have to let the pet sleep somewhere else. Now, if you're married, if you're living with someone, you can't necessarily leave all the time, but you need to find some solutions if you're not sleeping because of a partner. So do what you got to do. That doesn't mean you have to get an end to the relationship. It just means you have to find some solutions. But look at your sleep hygiene. Do you have a suitable space? Because that can make a huge difference. It can take somebody not sleeping and help them to sleep through the night. If that's taken care of, then look at a couple things. First of all, I want it to take you about 10 to 15 minutes to drift off to sleep. If you're asleep as soon as you hit the pillow, less than 5 minutes, you're too fatigued. You're not getting enough sleep. You're too stressed. That's a pretty good sign that you need some help. You need to change your day. You need to find a way to handle the load better. If you fall asleep in about 15 minutes, somewhere around there, over 5, but around 15 minutes, that's considered normal and natural. If it takes you longer than 15 minutes to fall asleep, the longer the worse it is, then you've got some kind of, we'll call it insomnia or hyposomnia where you're not sleeping enough. But if you're taking a long time to fall asleep, you usually have to look to being stressed, perhaps have your cortisol level assessed. The best way is probably through saliva. If you are not falling asleep, there are things that can help you. Some are natural, some are drug. I don't want you to get dependent on things, but sometimes you get the cycle started. A schedule makes a difference as well because you have a biological clock. It's run primarily by cortisol and melatonin, but you're supposed to have a sleep and wake cycle. If you have that different every day, it's hard for your body to adjust. Now, if you wake up at night, then it's possibly another problem. It might be that you're actually having some blood sugar regulation problems. And what happens is you actually get hypoglycemia in the middle of the night. So if you're one of those people that can get to sleep and then you wake up maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to actually ask you to eat something just before you go to bed. You probably don't have enough energy. Maybe you eat dinner pretty early. Don't worry about the thing where you don't want to eat after 6. If it's a reasonable small snack, it may be a benefit. So if you're not sleeping because you wake up in the middle of the night or something, and it's not because you have to get up and urinate, but just because you woke up, then you might have to look at that. So often it's not a bad thing to eat, say, a small piece of fruit, a little bit of protein, maybe a piece of cheese, just something that gives your body the energy that it needs to make it through the night. Because you, in essence, woke up because the body either didn't have enough sugar to finish what it was doing, or you might have actually not had enough protein. So you may need to vary that a little bit, but that can be helpful as well. Investigate it. Find out why you're not sleeping and solve the problem, because it's that important. So good nutrition, getting enough sleep, and some activity. That's how you solve depression. It's not about the newest and latest drug. It's about taking care of yourself.